back. Welcome back to the F1 video, man. Shout out to BMPH with the video. All links on him. Shout out to my boy. I was right about George Russell, a F1 champion in waiting. Now you guys do know he's been absolutely terrific this year in F1. I've been very, very impressed with George Russell coming from Williams, what he was able to do with that car the past few years. Now coming to Mercedes and just having that same impact, probably even having a greater impact. You could, I said it a couple of times already, but like you could say George Russell has kind of had a bad season than Lewis Hamilton. Yes, Lewis Hamilton is now starting to get going, as we've seen the last couple of races. But George Russell all season, man, his top 5 finish he's been getting, except for one, which is DNF. But I think every race that he's finished, he's came in the top 5, which is absolutely stupendous. Do I think he is going to be an F1 champion in the future? It's a good chance. It's a good chance he could have. He has a making to be a future F1 champion, but we will see. Probably Verstappen is going to have a couple words to say about that. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the video. Man, don't forget to like the video and sub as well if you are new. That's it. Let's get started.
As we know, Valtteri Bottas was rarely a threat in terms of competition to 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton. So when it was announced that George Russell would be replacing the Finn, it sparked debate as to whether he would be able to step up to the plate or not. Some predicted that he'd outperform Hamilton, whereas others thought it would take a couple of seasons for him to get up to speed.
He slick has outperformed Lewis Hamilton this year. You can't lie about it. I mean, you watch the races, look at the finishes, stuff like that.
I personally believed the latter, and I have to say, I've been proved wrong. I've made a few videos on Russell in the past, covering topics from his journey to Formula 1 to that famous night at the Sakhir Grand Prix. And every time I've come to looking at his performances in detail, I'm impressed more and more every single time. His stint at Williams was difficult, but ultimately character building. It laid the foundations for the George Russell we're seeing in 2022. As it stands, he is the only driver on the grid to finish in the top 5 in every single race so far,
Ridiculous.
Which is mighty impressive when you consider how difficult the Mercedes has been to drive.
Yeah.
I'm sure you all know by now that these new F1 cars all suffer from one main problem: porpoising. And for Mercedes, it was their performance killer. Their car, in theory, could be a lot faster if they could run at lower ride heights. But that's a very big if. Since lowering the ride heights increases the severity of porpoising, there comes a health risk, as the drivers' bodies can't sustain that.
Is porpoising that? I think they had this same issue in preseason as well. Remember, like the cars kept like jumping, stuff like that. Kind of like, they're freaking jumping, hopping, stuff like that. Like the car kept bouncing basically. I thought it was another issue, but I think
bouncing
I guess
for a full race distance.
Yeah, see that crap. Yeah,
This,
what is
there's
that?
also the risk of damaging the car.
Jesus.
Therefore, there needs to be a compromise. It's weird because when you look at a team like Ferrari, for example, they are experiencing
the car's
similar
freaking humping the
difficulties to
ground.
Mercedes, but still have one of the quickest cars in the grid.
The car is humping the
The
ground.
main difference is that the F175 is more pitch sensitive to porpoising, whereas the Mercedes is more speed sensitive. In other words, the Ferrari's porpoising is only triggered when there's maximum load being exerted on the rear, but settles down much faster under braking. In contrast, the Mercedes porpoising is triggered when the car crosses a particular speed threshold. Therefore, if they're above this threshold through high-speed corners, then the car will continue bouncing, making it much more difficult to control.
Right.
This was most evident at Turn 9 at Albert Park, where both Hamilton and Russell were forced to drive below the limits of the car to prevent it from flying off the track. But now, with the upgrade introduced at the Spanish Grand Prix, their porpoising problems are mostly solved. In the words of Mercedes strategy director James Vowles, the Mercedes was a proper racing car. They could tune it, set it up, and play around with settings such that it would respond in a predictable way. Now they finally have something they can build from. Although they're worried that their issues might not be completely gone, the situation is a lot better than it was in the opening 5 rounds. George made great use of this upgrade by delivering his second podium of the season in Barcelona. And yeah, it wouldn't have been possible if Leclerc didn't retire, however, it was still a tremendous performance nonetheless. The inspiration for this video came from the first stint of the race, where Russell was defending Verstappen, and what I was most impressed by was how well he handled the pressure. The first proper attack came when George moved over to defend, and Max sent a late one up the inside. But as he was carrying too much speed and at an acute angle on corner entry, it allowed George to follow the racing line and regain the place. Going through the long right-hander of turn 3, Russell was firm in his defense
It was hot as
by
crap
running
there.
Verstappen out of road on the exits. The next time around, Max attempted to go around the outside with DRS, but once again, George managed to fend him off. This particular battle was a perfect demonstration of keeping composed under pressure. Although he didn't have as much to lose and could therefore defend a bit harder, it doesn't change the fact that his wheel-to-wheel skills are up there with the very best. As much as there's been a lot of hype around this guy, there's also been a lot of skepticism, and understandably so. I mean, with all due respect, Nicholas Latifi isn't the kind of teammate you'd exactly be proud to beat, even if it was convincingly. Another reason why some people weren't fully sold on Russell's potential is because Williams was a much lower profile environment.
Right.
There wasn't as much pressure or expectation to deliver consistently good performances. Considering he's entering a new team with arguably the greatest driver ever as his teammate, in a car that's been unbearable to drive only until recently, you wouldn't expect George to be performing this well. And it's testament not only to his immense talent, but also his maturity. Back in January, before the season had even started, he said adaptability is what makes a great driver, knowing what the car is capable of and what the car isn't capable of.
And like you guys know, what we've all talked about, all the videos and streams that we've done. How Russell has been able to adapt to a car in some sort of way to continue these, good races. It's incredible. Well, we've heard, Lewis Hamilton talking about, he just don't think this is it. I don't know, like he can't do this. But what Russell has been able to achieve, I mean, sheesh. Sheesh.
And it's clear to see now that his sentiments have aged like fine wine. For the first race in Bahrain, he didn't have the best qualifying results, as he could only manage P9 and a little under a second slower than his teammates. Given he was quick throughout both Q1 and Q2,
I like the helmet,
it
though.
was pretty
The
obvious
helmet's
to why he
tough.
was so much slower in the final session. Well, in the post-quali interviews, he explained that he tried pushing harder on the outlap to get the tyres closer to their optimal working range. But instead, he ended up overdoing it and was left with no grip. But in the race, he was much better, bringing the car home in P4 after Red Bull's late double DNF. It was a similar story in Jeddah, but once again in race trim, the Mercedes was much more competitive, relative to the midfield that is, and he came home in P5. His first podium for Mercedes came at the Australian Grand Prix, where he managed to jump both Hamilton and Perez under the safety car. In Imola, he was able to catapult up from 11th to 9th off the line. Then came the incident between Sainz, Ricciardo and Bottas, which allowed Russell to sneak up to P6. On lap 12, he made a nice pass on Magnussen for 5th, and from there, he inherited 4th after Leclerc's spin. Overall, a great comeback drive, but most of his places were made up due to others' misfortune. Miami was another tough qualifying session once again, as he didn't make it into Q3. However,
I think the last race, I think both Mercedes had podium, and I think it's gonna be Verstappen. If I'm correct, I think it's supposed to be Verstappen and both Ferrari cars, but I think Leclerc had like an issue, something like that. It was something like that, but I do know. I don't think Lewis Hamilton was supposed to get podium, and then somebody car got messed up, and I think it was 2 Mercedes and Verstappen. I think on podium. I think. Like I said, it's been minutes since the last race.
Sunday,
I really
he made it
need
back
to go
up to
back
P5
and
after
rewatch
another
the race
safety car
highlights
helped him
just to
over
refresh your
He
mind.
was on a much older set of
This
tyres.
mid-season break is killing the
Then came
boy.
the Spanish Grand Prix, where he was absolutely
my F1.
flawless in his defense against Verstappen, and delivering another podium for the team. And in the latest race in Monaco, he extended his streak of top 5 finishes to 7 by jumping his fellow countryman Lando Norris in the pit stop phases. Briefly summarizing George's first 7 races for Mercedes, it's clear to see he has been clinically consistent and made the most out of others' misfortunes. He hasn't really had an off weekend yet so far, and I don't think you can say that about any other driver. Yes, he's had a couple of poor qualifying performances, but he's made up for them in the races. And that's been a very common trend with the W13. They seem to have quite a peaky car in quali trim. They've struggled a lot to get the car set up in the right way and getting the tyres into the right window. Even the slightest shift in approach to an outlap can be the difference between making the top 10 or not. Now though, the Mercedes isn't as unpredictable as before. Therefore, we can expect to see them fighting with the Red Bulls and Ferraris on occasions throughout the year. Based on what we've seen from him so far, he's more than ready to take on the likes of Verstappen and Leclerc up front.
Yeah.
The only area I'd say he can improve on is his race pace. When both he and Hamilton have both had representative qualifying sessions, there's been around a tenth of a second difference between them in favour of both. Sometimes Lewis will have the upper hand, and other times
Bro, that
it will
car
be
is
George.
sexy as crap.
However, on
That's a
race
nice
pace,
car.
Hamilton is the one with the slight advantage,
Team
but has
viewer.
suffered more
Ew,
bad luck
that's
than his
Manchester
teammates.
United thing.
Taking this into account, we're yet to see Lewis put his best foot forward this year, so it will be interesting to see how the dynamic progresses during the season. But so far, they've been working extremely well together, and this may be an unpopular opinion, but I don't see this becoming this big intra-team rivalry everyone's talking
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, there's always that strong desire to beat your teammates, and Lewis obviously won't be thrilled about
George
George's
Russell's
results being
tall.
better than his. But there isn't any animosity between the two. They've simply both been focused on trying to make the most out of the situation they're currently in.
I think George Russell is going to be way better. I think George Russell is really is really going to. My God, Jesus! I think George Russell is really going to compliment Lewis Hamilton very well. Valtteri did a great job. Valtteri Bottas did a very good job as a teammate with Lewis Hamilton, but I think George Russell is going to be an even greater of a teammate to Lewis Hamilton, or like he said, or like what a lot of people are probably thinking, maybe if that, he could possibly pass Lewis Hamilton. You know,
If there's
and be
anything that
probably
really
a top
highlights
dog
Russell's
at
true talent,
Mercedes.
it's a story that goes all the way back to 2014, when he was 16 years old. You see, at the time, George was competing in both the Formula
Young
Renault
George.
2.0 Alp Series and the BRDC Formula 4 Championship. He ended the Formula Renault Series fourth in the standings without a single victory, behind current Ferrari driver Charles Leclerc and Formula E champion Nick de Vries. In addition to this, in the third race of the penultimate weekend in his Formula 4 campaign, Russell clashed for the second time that season with South African driver Raoul Hyman. This left him 21 points down behind championship leader Arjun Maini going into the final round at Snetterton. Given the cutthroat nature of motorsports, this championship was either going to make or break his career. He just had to win. Russell struggled for most of the season with race starts. Being one of the tallest drivers on the grid in a Formula 4 chassis that was incredibly slim, George was forced to adapt by twisting his feet and using his toes to press the pedals.
Oh, jeez.
As you can
that's
imagine,
nice.
this wasn't the most comfortable feeling.
Yeah,
And it caused his
very
starts to suffer,
uncomfortable.
especially at the final round when it mattered most. After starting on pole for the first race, he dropped places off the line and ended up finishing a lowly P7. Luckily for him, Maini finished one place behind and was on reverse grid pole for race 2. That went a little better for Russell, as he finished in second, with Maini down in fifth due to one costly error. But the Indian driver remained the favourite for the championship, as he still had a 13-point buffer.
So we're
Now,
So where is he
remember
at
how I
now?
mentioned that George was involved in a couple of race-ending retirements with Raoul Hyman? Well, for the final race, both guys lined up alongside each other on the front row.
whatever.
Hyman dropped the Brit at the starts, meaning that Russell would have to pass him on track to win the title. And given their history, odds were that they'd come together again. But unlike on previous occasions, Russell picked his moment perfectly and made a defining move that would win him the championship. Since then, he went on to finish third in the Formula 3 European Championship and win GP3 and Formula 2 in back-to-back seasons as a rookie. And the rest, well, is history. For those who doubted Russell before, hopefully this season is proof that he is a generational talent.
He's him.
A driver with
George
an
is
innate
him.
ability to rapidly adapt to different conditions, scenarios, and machinery. He's a professional with maturity beyond his years, and there's no doubt in my mind that one day he will become a Formula 1 world champion. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please give it a like and share it around with others in the
Yeah, I think, yeah, a very good video. And I think George is gonna be a future F1. I don't know when. It's probably not this year because Verstappen probably has it wrapped up again. But give about 2 years, yeah. The next few years, I'll not be surprised if I do see him one. But very, very good video, very interesting video about George Russell, which I've been meaning to do a video just to learn more about George Russell. We're getting through a lot of drivers. We're going to continuously learn more about each driver. You guys let me know what you guys want to check out next. Don't forget to like and sub. Comment down below your thoughts to it. We'll see you guys later, man.